1985. What can be said about 1985? It was a very big year for pop culture. We got many awesome video games such as Commando, Gradius, Moto, City Connection, Hang On, Space Harrier, and one of the greatest games ever made, Super Mario Bros. We also got a lot of awesome movies such as Rocky IV, National Lampoon's European Vacation, The Breakfast Club, The Goonies, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and Back to the Future. So many awesome things came out of 1985 alone that the year itself just gives me a warm feeling every time I see it or hear it. And speaking of movies from 1985, there's one such movie that may not seem like a big deal to some people, but for someone such as myself, it's a pretty big freaking deal. The movie I'm referring to, of course, is Police Story. Police Story is an action crime drama written, directed by, and starring Jackie Chan, and released in Hong Kong in December 1985 under distribution from Golden Harvest. The movie also stars Bridget Lin, Maggie Cheung, and Choi Yuen, with supporting roles played by Charlie Cho, Harkon Fung, Kwok Hun Lam, Bill Tung, Kam Hing Yin, and Mars. Police Story's production began after Jackie Chan wrapped up on The Protector, an American action crime drama that he starred in an attempt to break into the United States market. Unfortunately, the movie's director James Glickenhaus refused to let Jackie contribute any ideas or direct the fight scenes. Jackie was so upset about how the movie turned out that he shot new scenes and re-edited the movie for its Hong Kong release. He also decided to make his own action crime drama done his own way, and he ended up making Police Story. Police Story was an absolute blockbuster smash hit, grossing 26.6 million Hong Kong dollars upon its initial release, and it stunned millions around the world with its amazing stunts and action scenes. Even Jackie Chan himself considers it to be his best movie in terms of action. It was also the start of the Police Story series of movies that were subsequently released from 1988 to 2013. Now before I begin the review, I must mention that there are 3 different cuts of Police Story. A 99-minute theatrical cut that was used for the Hong Kong release, a 105-minute extended cut that was used for the Japanese release, and an 87-minute export cut that was used for international releases of the movie, most notably for the movie's appearance at the 1987 New York Film Festival and the Western VHS releases from 1987 to around 1998. For more information about the differences between the 3 cuts, I highly implore you to check out Space Hunter M's Police Story video, which goes into great detail about the 3 cuts, as well as the 4 English dubs of Police Story. To keep these simple, I'll be reviewing the Hong Kong theatrical cut of the movie since it's the version used for the original 1985 release, and it's also the most common version to find in the wild. So, without further ado, let's review Police Story. The movie starts with generic opening credits on a black background, which is pretty unorthodox for a Jackie Chan movie. My only guess as to why this was done is that they wanted to start the movie off calmly, and then build up to the explosive action that's about to unfold. Anyway, after the opening credits, we get a shot of a shantytown as the camera pans down to show a car pulling up in front. The man inside is Tao Chu, played by Choi Yuen. Mr. Chu is a crime lord that the Hong Kong police force is trying to stop in a planned mission called Operation Boar Hunt. The officers are briefed on their instructions by Inspector Raymond Lee, played by Kwok Hun Lam, and Inspector Bill Cho, played by Bill Tung. One of these officers is our hero Kakui Chan, played by Jackie Chan. While the officers are blocking off the roads, Chu is trying to sell some drugs for a fat load of cash. One of Chu's men notices one of the police officers and tells Chu's secretary Selena Fong, played by Bridget Lin, to give Chu the signal to leave. Luckily, Kakui sees this and alerts his friend Kim, played by Mars, that they've been found out. Just as Selena alerts Chu about the officers, Kakui catches her and pins her down. Following this is a massive shootout between the cops and the criminals, turning the quiet and peaceful shantytown into a hellish war zone as bullets fly and people topple to the ground. This is enough to traumatize one of the officers, who is so shaken by these atrocities that he literally pisses himself. Kakui has to calm him down and take charge by going after Chu all by himself. The bad guys try to escape, but the roads are all blocked off, so there's only one way for them to go: down. They start driving down to the bottom as Kakui catches up with them, so he hops in a nearby car and follows them down into the shantytown. This leads to massive amounts of explosions and overall destruction as shacks topple over and people jump out of the way to avoid the oncoming cars. The excitement is brought up to 11 with this scene. Once they reach the bottom, Chu and his men make a run for it, and Kakui follows suit as the movie's theme song Hero Story begins playing. The bad guys hijack a bus and Kakui takes a woman's umbrella and chases after them. As the bus rounds a corner, Kakui runs up to it and hooks onto it with the umbrella, hanging on for dear life. He works his way up to the top deck of the bus, and he's able to hang on as the bus rounds another corner. Even when a bunch of cars come by, he just lifts his legs over them like it's nothing. Do you know how much leg strength it takes to do that?
This man is fit for the Olympics!
Chu and his men spot Kakui hanging in the back and try to knock him off. He's able to handle the bad guys pretty well, until Chu hits him with a briefcase.
Now, in a situation like this, most people would just give up on chasing the bad guys at this point. But not Kakui. He's got something up his sleeves.
Kakui runs down a very steep hill and stops a car in the middle of the road when he reaches the bottom. As the bus approaches, Kakui reloads his gun and points it at the oncoming bus like a total badass. Not a single amount of fear is in this man's body. He is ready for action. Just as the bus is about to run him down, Kakui fires his gun towards the sky, scaring them into stopping the bus, and the bad guys crash through the window and hit the ground hard.
Here's a fun fact about this moment. The way it was planned, the bad guys were supposed to land on the car when they crashed out of the window. But the driver hit the brakes too early and the bus stopped too short, so the bad guys hit the ground instead.
Anyway, Kakui finally catches up to Chu and puts him under arrest. Chu tries to bribe Kakui with the briefcase filled with cash to let him go, and it seems that Kakui is going to take the bribe, but he fakes Chu out and arrests him. Back at the station, Kakui and his fellow officer Inspector Man, played by Kam Hyung-yin, are scolded by Raymond for failing to properly execute their orders and almost letting Chu get away. Suddenly, a PR lady enters the room, and Raymond explains that he invited the press to the station for a speech to be read by Kakui.
Hi.
After the press conference, the movie has a light-hearted montage of Kakui taking pictures for promotional posters. It's pretty funny, and considering the Shantytown shootout scene that took place earlier, the movie definitely needed something to lighten the mood. We then see Bill and Raymond enjoying a nice game of darts while discussing how Chu would try to get rid of Selena Fong if she's used as a witness in his trial, and that they need the right man to protect her. By the way, I can't help but mention this, but these guys suck at dart throwing. Look at that, they're not even hitting the target. Raymond nearly hits Bill right in the face with one of those darts. Sometime later, Selena arrives with Chu's lawyer when Kakui enters the room.
Awkward.
Selena is then subpoenaed by the police to appear in court the following day as a witness, and Kakui is assigned to protect her until the trial. He's even given a tape recorder to tape down any vocal evidence. Unfortunately for Kakui, Selena absolutely refuses to cooperate and constantly avoids him. We then see Chu speaking with his lawyer about the trial, and the lawyer explains how Selena will be used as a witness for the prosecution. Kakui follows Selena all the way back to her house, and through some slapstickiness...
That's right, I'm using slapstickiness as an actual word, and no word processors or angry YouTube commenters can stop me!
She stops Kakui from getting inside. She then goes to the bathroom to freshen up when we see someone lurking outside her window. Selena, don't go to the window, you're gonna get killed by...
Oh, it's just Kakui.
Anyway, Selena opens up her closet to find the assassin. She initially thinks it's Kakui trying to scare her again, but then the assassin begins attacking her as she scrambles around the room like a crab. The assassin's mask falls off while Selena isn't looking, and he's revealed to be Kakui's friend Kim from earlier, only pretending to be an assassin in order to scare Selena into cooperating with Kakui. Hilarity ensues as Kim pretends to attack Selena some more, while a comical version of Hero Story plays in the background. Kim even topples down the stairs like a drunkard. After all that goofiness, Kakui enters and pretends to fight Kim, until Selena whacks Kim's head with a vase. Kakui tries to make it look like Kim's still attacking while also trying to get him out of the house. Then, Selena hits Kim with another vase, and he's completely unconscious despite Kakui's continuous efforts to fool Selena. Selena is about to whack Kim with a freaking pillar when Kakui ends his charade and stops her before she can give him brain damage. Selena then pulls off the mask to see Kim's face, and Kakui pretends to call Bill, saying that he wants out of protecting Selena. This gets Selena to finally cooperate with Kakui, so he gives Selena his jacket and the two head off for Kakui's apartment. The two drive off in Selena's car when all of a sudden, Kakui accidentally knocks over a baby carriage. Kakui runs over to check if the baby's okay, only to find a doll inside the carriage and to be kicked in the face. Kakui and Selena are then attacked by a group of thugs driving cars and wielding long pipes, but Kakui is able to fend them off. As to be expected with pretty much every fight scene Jackie Chan makes, the choreography here is absolutely fantastic. The hits are swift, it makes great use of props, and the rhythm of everyone's movements is very swift. As Kakui fights the thugs, Selena is chased into the woods, finds Kakui's gun in his jacket pocket, and scares away the thugs with a warning shot. As the two continue their journey, Kakui tapes Selena's confession about Chu, and they arrive at Kakui's apartment. But when they get inside, they're greeted with...
Shut up! That song's copyrighted!
Kakui's girlfriend Mei, played by Maggie Chung, is throwing Kakui a surprise birthday party. But she sees him with Selena, assumes that he's cheating, and wham! Cake face.
Yo, imagine if she didn't blow out those candles before caking him. That would have burned his face. Though it wouldn't be surprising that if they did go through with that idea. I mean, if you're crazy enough to drop from a height of about 60 feet with nothing but 2 awnings to break your fall, and then in the future get kicked onto a bed of blazing hot coals and slide down the side of a large glass building, I'd honestly be surprised if you wouldn't let yourself get caked in the face with the candle still lit.
After wasting some perfectly good food product, Mei storms off in an angry fit while the other partygoers follow suit. Kakui then rants on about his relationship with Mei while getting in the shower. Mei comes back while Kakui is in the shower, and this leads to her hearing Kakui saying some really regrettable stuff without knowing that she's listening. But Kakui finally finds Mei, realizes she heard pretty much everything, and wham! Cake face. As Mei is about to leave, Kakui tries to explain himself to Mei, but she refuses to listen, not even when Kakui violently yanks her off her motorbike. Meanwhile, Selena is walking around the apartment when she finds a picture of Kakui and his fellow officers. She recognizes the face of Kim from earlier and quickly figures out Kakui's scheme. She then decides to sabotage his mission. When Kakui gets back, she starts saying very suggestive things, and Kakui is completely clueless as to what's going on.
Now, as weird and frankly uncomfortable as this may be, there is a reason why Selena is doing this to Kakui, as we shall soon find out later in the movie.
The next morning, Kakui awakens to a phone call from the police station telling him to hurry down to the courthouse for the trial. He scrambles around the house gathering what he needs and realizes that Selena has flown the coop. So he grabs the tape recorder and heads out the door in a hurry. As Kakui nears the courthouse, a man, played by the movie's composer Michael Lai, is about to steal the last free parking space. So in an epic move, Kakui slides the car right into the space. When he gets to the courthouse, Kakui tells his superiors the unfortunate news that he was unable to bring Selena with him to the trial, dashing their hopes at winning the case. Kakui is then called to the stand. Surprisingly, Mei bothered showing up to see Kakui at the trial, despite the events that transpired the previous night. The trial is absolute torture for the prosecution. Chu's lawyer has Kakui up against the ropes, and it's absolutely hopeless for him without Selena. And if you didn't despise Chu already, you most likely will in this scene as he watches Kakui struggle with the lawyer. That smug look on his face is just so despicable, almost as if he's saying, "I got this guy by the balls." After Kakui's questioning, the judge is about to end the trial when Kakui whips out the tape of Selena's recorded confession. He has the court play the tape in a large tape deck with big-ass stereo speakers and...
Well, that was weird.
As I was saying, Kakui has the court play the tape for everyone to hear when this happens. That's right, Selena taped over her confession to Kakui with those suggestive comments from earlier in order to sabotage his mission and make a fool out of him. As the entire courthouse laughs at him, Kakui tries desperately to explain himself. It's utterly hopeless, however, and Chu easily wins the case. Now, despite him failing to bring Chu to justice in a court of law, Kakui's successful arrest of Chu at the shantytown has brought him some fame and publicity, which annoys the piss out of Chu. Not only that, but his lawyer reminds him that if the cops find Selena, Chu won't be a free man for long. His men tell him that they can use Kakui in order to waste Selena. Another man enters the room, and lo and behold, it's Inspector Man. It turns out that he has been secretly conspiring with the bad guys to help Chu with his case.
Bastard.
Chu then asks a favor of Man, to make Kakui disappear. We then see Kakui arriving at the station. Why there are a bunch of cows there, I have no idea. He then steps in their dung and has to channel his inner Michael Jackson to scrape the poop off of his shoe. Inside the station, Kakui is tasked with managing all the phones, and he has to juggle between a call with Mei, a woman who's been beat up by her husband, a man who's lost his cow, and a woman who's been raped. Unfortunately, he accidentally gets the calls mixed up and tells the wrong things to the wrong people, which makes for some hilarity. This scene of Kakui using the phones is awesome because of how he swerves around to grab each of the phones and does all sorts of wacky movements. The way that the scene is executed is another fine example of how Jackie Chan truly dedicates to his craft. After everyone hangs up, Kakui puts all the phones back where they were and sits down to eat some noodles he was cooking. He doesn't have chopsticks, so he uses 2 pencils instead. But this doesn't work out for him since he accidentally eats the erasers off of the pencils.
Classic.
We then see Kakui meet with Mei to discuss why he's late to dinner with Mei's mother. He then gets beeped by his friend Snake Eyes and tells Mei to hold on to the car while he uses a nearby phone since the handbrake is broken. And she lets go of it.
Mei, you are useless.
Snake tells Kakui that Chu has Selena tied up in a villa in Rosary Village and that she'll be killed if Kakui doesn't come. Kakui then explains to Mei that he has to leave to save Selena when his car comes rolling down a hill and nearly smashes into them. Kakui then hops into a taxi and tells Mei to call a tow truck and apologize to her mom for him. Kakui then arrives at the villa and uses epic parkour moves to get past the gates and sneak inside. He finds Selena tied up and unties her, but then more of Chu's goons show up and attack him. Kakui is able to hold off the baddies with the help of the room's furniture in typical Jackie Chan style. He even kicks a guy through a window, which looks very impressive and also very painful. The crooks get the better of Kakui, however, and have him down on the ground. When Inspector Man enters and draws his gun on the bad guys, Kakui joins him and believes he's come to help him, until Man draws his gun on him. Then, one of the bad guys takes Kakui's gun and points it at Man.
Double-crossed.
The goon explains that they plan on using Kakui's gun to kill another officer and frame him for the murder, and the dead officer turns out to be... Kakui then throws the dying inspector at the bad guys, and he escapes with Selena onto the rooftop. Before the bad guys can reach them, Kakui sees a nearby pool and tosses Selena into it so she can get away. Kakui tries to get away too, but Chu's goons catch up to him and smother him in chloroform, knocking him out. We then cut to Bill and Raymond arguing about Kakui's supposed murder of Inspector Man. Bill doesn't believe that he did it, but Raymond is willing to believe the evidence and doesn't want people thinking that a cop could get away with murder.
Honestly, I don't blame either of them.
The movie then cuts to Kakui waking up in a random location as he soon finds out that he's been framed. Kakui has reached his lowest point in this movie as a sad symphonic version of Hero Story plays, truly making this feeling of sadness more powerful. With no other options left, Kakui decides to turn himself in. He arrives at the station, now an accused fugitive cop killer, as he approaches the main office while his own partners and friends watch him. He enters the office and tries to explain what happened to the best of his memory. Unfortunately, it's not enough for them to let him off the hook. But before they can cuff him, Kakui grabs his gun and aims it at his superiors. He then goes on a rant about how Raymond doesn't truly care about the feelings of the officers and constantly puts their lives in jeopardy. This scene is emotionally powerful thanks to a strong performance from Jackie Chan, and considering all of the torment that Kakui has had to suffer throughout the course of this movie, you can truly feel the pain and suffering he's going through and expressing with his words. After his rant, Kakui grabs Raymond and threatens to kill him if anyone gets too close. Kakui drags Raymond out of the station and stuffs him into a car. He orders him to drive him away, and Bill orders the others not to follow them. They drive a long distance before stopping in the middle of an empty road. Kakui then lets Raymond out and tells him he'll get Chu before the police can catch him. Raymond tells him to be careful. Kakui thanks him, and he drives off. Kakui and Mei go to a shopping mall where Chu is expected to arrive, and they wait there for him. Meanwhile, Selena gets into Chu's office and copies his computer data, which will prove Kakui's innocence, and puts it in a briefcase. Chu and his men are discussing the recent news of Kakui escaping from his superiors when Chu sees that someone's stealing his data and realizes that it's Selena doing it. Kakui spots Chu arriving at the mall and he goes in. Chu and his men find Selena and immediately give chase, but Kakui interferes and fights off the bad guys. Unfortunately, the bad guys steal the briefcase and throw Kakui off of a balcony. The bad guys then take Selena with them, and it seems that all hope is lost. But then Kakui comes in with a swift attack. More baddies enter the picture and the final fight begins.
Not that final fight.
Like with all of the fight scenes in this movie, the choreography and usage of props is absolutely fantastic. It should also be noted how much prop glass is broken in this scene alone. A lot, and I mean a lot, is broken. As a matter of fact, the prop glass used in this movie was actually made twice as thick so that it would behave more like real glass, but that made the cuts and injuries more severe. So much glass was broken during the filming of this scene alone that the people working on the movie have jokingly referred to it as Glass Story. After fighting with the baddies for some time, one of them grabs a motorcycle and tries running Kakui over with it, but he swiftly dodges it and sends the man through a whole lot of glass with the motorcycle. He then sees one of Chu's men trying to escape with the briefcase and goes after him. He throws the briefcase all the way down to the bottom floor but gets attacked by Kakui. Kakui calls out to Mei to grab the briefcase, but she gets thrown down a staircase not once, but twice by Chu and his men. The bad guys reach the briefcase, but Kakui finds a lightning fixture that leads down to the bottom. With nowhere left to go, Kakui jumps up to the balcony and just goes for it.
This has to be the absolute greatest stunt in all of film history. Considering the fact that Jackie Chan burned off all the skin on his hands with the pole heated up by the electric lights, plus the fact that he dislocated his pelvis when he crashed through the children's playhouse, says something about the true danger of the stunt that he performed. Not only that, but they had to use the shopping mall's battery in order to power the lights, so the electric shock could have potentially killed Jackie. What's even more impressive about this stunt is that after all this madness transpires, you can still see Jackie moving around and fighting the bad guys after such a large fall. This man is amazing, I tell you.
Anyway, Kakui finally catches Chu and puts a glass shard up to his throat and is about to kill him, lamenting about how the law is on Chu's side. And after what happened to Kakui, I honestly don't blame him. Selena arrives in time to tell the cops that Kakui is innocent and that the evidence is in the briefcase. Chu drops the briefcase, and Kakui lets go of Chu. Then, Chu's asshole lawyer comes into the picture and starts babbling on about how he's gonna sue them for beating up on Chu and whatnot. This babbling causes Kakui's anger, frustration, and hatred to bubble up, and he lashes out at the lawyer, knocking him into a display of Barbie dolls, and finally giving Chu a well-deserved barrage of punches to the abdomen before knocking him into a shopping cart and sending him into some glass. And that's the story of Police Story.
So what did I think of Police Story? It's an absolute masterpiece. The drama, the action, and the comedy are all well executed with fantastic performances from Jackie Chan and company. Michael Lai's soundtrack for the movie is very well done, especially with the movie's theme song Hero Story, which is sung beautifully by Jackie Chan himself. The story is well presented and has one of the greatest climaxes in all of film history, so Police Story gets an approval from me. Jackie Chan is and will always be my favorite movie star and director of all time because of the true effort and care that he puts into making his movies, and it shows with such fantastic films as Police Story. So if you can find some way to watch this movie, I deeply implore you to do so. You're guaranteed to be on the edge of your seat. And as always, thank you everybody for watching. I'm Andrew Ambrose, and I'll catch you later.
自我寫我一生的詩，情共愛，淚與刺，真誠是意。生命豁出去，留下了驚人快事。英雄有骨氣，雄視世界似醒獅，衝前去。全部得失只有全心知，跨步上雲上我要去飛，衝前去，全部得失只有全心知。跨步上雲上我要去飛，衝前去，全部得失只有全心知。跨